Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Talk Truth. Let me first say Happy New Year. We have made it to 2021. Last year, this time, a lot of us were looking to the east, saying, "Whoa, what tragedy was happening." And we never thought that it would have come to our doorstep. So we are so grateful to God for being alive. We have made it through. We have made it through trials and tribulation. A lot of persons would have lost their lives due to the virus and, of course, to other circumstances. So we are really grateful that we are still on the battlefield. We are still marching forward. We are still in the land of the living, and we give God thanks. Can you believe it? We are almost halfway through season 2 of Talk Truth. I know the last time I saw you, I said, I will see you in January 2020. No, we don't want to go back to January 2020. We are moving on to 2021. So welcome to another episode of Talk Truth and welcome to my channel, or channel, Women Healing Together. Oh, the comments are coming in. Tanisha is saying, well, happy New Year, WHT family. Happy New Year, Tanisha, and thank you so much for being devoted WHT family member. Girl, you are always here and we love you for that. Thank you so much. Big shout out to Tanisha all the way in Japan. For those of you who are just joining, this is your first time, whether you are on the live or you will join us later on when you watch the recording. We want to remind you or introduce you to Women Healing Together, where we deal with all things women. All things women, as we really and truly, as I always say, we heal so much better when we heal together. And here on Women Healing Together, we have a talk show called Talk Truth. And we are here every first and third Wednesday of each month. And now we're on episode 6. Kim says, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, sweetheart. Wonderful. All right. So here at Talk Truth, our mantra, this is your safe space and your safe place where we tackle the issue of childhood sexual abuse and help women who are on the road of healing. And it's brought to you by, of course, Women Healing Together and the LAX Society. Please share, subscribe. Yes, like and comment, but more so share and subscribe so that we can spread the word. All right. We are going to begin this week. We are talking about facing guilt and shame. So many women, so many persons, we are here, we are alive, and we want to move forward. But these two monsters, these two issues, they continue to hold us bound. And to start the new year, we're going to be facing them head on. And also to help us have this conversation this evening, talk the truth, we have a very special guest, and she's coming on camera right now as I introduce her. Yes! Hi, Vennassa. Okay. She was,
Hi, Popsan and the Talk True family. How are you guys doing?
oh, wow. I'm doing well. I'll allow them to answer for themselves. So, guys, come on, give your comment. Vennassa is asking how you're doing. No, I'm so happy that you're here. You're looking beautiful. Happy New Year again.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So,
Thank you
you're
so
welcome.
much. And you are looking amazing as well.
Do you like the yellow? I was supposed to have to talk to the family members this. I have a yellow cover now in keeping with the brand
Uh-huh.
color. So I hope you like it. I hope they like it.
Yes.
My couch as
I
well.
love it. I love it. It's bright, it's inviting, and it's just radiant. I love it.
Come on, girl. All right. So I know that the WHT family, they want to know who is Vennassa. Now, Vennassa
Mhm.
Roper-Cunningham, right? I've been trying to get the pronunciation. She knows I've been working on it.
Yes, you got it. You got it.
Thank you. She's a psychotherapist. Okay, so Kim is saying, welcome, Vennassa. Excited to hear what you have to say. Wash hands, she's ready to go. Okay, so Vennassa is a psychotherapist, right? She has a master's and she's also a licensed counselor. Her area of specialization is trauma and mental health. And I heard Vennassa in at a church, I think 2 years ago, and I was blown away because I have been hearing about how great you are. And when I heard you from myself for the first time, I'm like, yes, yes. So she has 7 years of experience in her field, and we are so happy to have you, my dear. So happy to have you. I think she's freezing a little bit, so we can wait a little. All right. So let's wait a little bit. Technology, it does happen. Ladies who are watching, thank you again for joining us. And I want to hear from you as we're going to be talking about facing guilt and shame. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it is necessary for us to tackle guilt and shame? Or are they emotions that we must get comfortable with? Because guess what? They're just a part of life. So please, let us hear from you right now. Let us continue our conversation as we always do, as we relate with each other, and we give Vennassa a little bit more time to come back to us. So let's hear what you have to say there. And as we wait on your responses, I just want to introduce you to something that I believe will change your life, something that has changed so many other persons' life. And this something will only take you like maybe 5 minutes per day to delve into, 5 to 10 minutes per day to delve into, for you to get all the wonderful inspiration and motivation that you need. And it's just the click of a button away. That something is my book. And I'm going to show you. My book, oops, one fell. It's called Knicks Knacks for Living. Don't know if you can see it here. All right, it's called Knicks Knacks for Living, Motivation All Around. And this is a motivational book, but Ven is back. All right, can you hear me, Ven?
I am hearing you now. I'm so sorry I got disconnected.
It's okay, it happens. That's fine. That's okay. I was just sharing about my book, but I'll do that after. You are the main show right here today. So the ladies were welcoming.
Thank you, ladies. Thanks so much.
Yes, we want to dig right into it. And the first question that I think so many women, because guess what? Shame and guilt, it's something that women, especially who have experienced childhood sexual trauma, we really struggle with it. And I'm sure you have seen that in your field and your experience. Is it something that's real? Is it something that's really an issue that's worth discussing?
Yes, it is real. If supposed to say it's not real, I would pretty much be belittling and saying that people's experience and feelings and thoughts after various experiences aren't valid and it's not real. So it is real. The feelings and the thoughts and the behaviors that follow any form of traumatic experience or abuse, that's real and so real to the point where it manifests itself in so many different ways. And I know we're going to get to it, like what does it look like, but it's so real where it affects you psychologically and mentally, physically, and it also just spills over into relationships as well.
Thank you. So ladies, do you think, WHT family, Talk Truth family who are watching, just comment. If you are live, go live in the chat. If you're watching after for the recording, please comment below. Do you think it's real? Kim says, absolutely. We need that paradigm shift in order for women to open up and actively deal with abuse. This is what WHT is doing. Yes. That's it. That's it. All.
Yes.
So the first
Yeah.
question. Yes, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Feel free to stop me anytime and go
No,
ahead.
I was just saying that Kim hit the nail on the head. Like, we definitely need to create safe spaces where people feel so safe in being vulnerable, in talking about the realness of surviving childhood sexual abuse. And I think this is the space that you are creating with these wonderful women who are not just survivors and victors, but they are also leading very meaningful lives. Their parents, their daughters, they're all these different things. And having gone through such a difficult situation, to see this end of the spectrum, it's beautiful.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as we are talking about women healing together and the fact that this is a safe space and a safe place, many persons may be thinking, oh, Popsan, Vennassa, why don't you have private support groups? And nothing is wrong with private support groups. They have their space and they're impactful. But I wanted a platform that's public so that people know that this is not something to just be closed in a closet and just leave it there. So it's amazing. We're all on the same page and I
Right.
love it. Continue to pour in your comments. Now, the first question is, Vennassa, are guilt and shame synonymous emotions? Are they
Hmm.
one and the same? And if they are not, can you expound so women can know the difference, if there is a difference?
I like the way you phrase that question, Pop Sam, because we find a lot of the times that people use the two words guilt and shame interchangeably. But from a psychological perspective, they're actually referring to two different experiences. And sometimes we find where guilt and shame, they go hand in hand, and that the same action may, cause the same feeling to come about, shame or guilt, but they are different. They are different, and
Mhm.
I can definitely break it down a little bit as to how it looks
Sure.
different.
Yes, go right ahead.
No, sounds good. Sounds good. Um, so what we actually see is that guilt is holding something that we've done or failed to do, against our values and feelings, and it may actually cause some form of psychological discomfort. And when it comes on to that guilt can either be crippling, or it can either motivate us to make some form of change. And I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like. But when it comes to shame, shame includes statements where we would say to ourselves, like, I am bad, or I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable. And we find where survivors oftentimes share this shame, and usually speak these things over themselves. And it can definitely lead to people feeling belittled, or belittling themselves, or lack of self-worth or self-love. And when we see these things coming out, this is definitely the shame part of it versus the guilt. Um, when it comes to guilt, again, now we will see where guilt is, did I do something bad? That's the guilt coming out. Did I do something bad? Oftentimes we will see where, survivors will point out that they somehow caused the abuse on themselves, and that they should have fought more, or ran away, or said something to someone, and they feel guilty for not doing those things. So that's the guilt. And such guilt statements are oftentimes reinforced by unhelpful societal responses. And when we think about these societal responses, usually the societal response comes immediately after an abuse has occurred, and that survivor feels so strong to speak about it, report it to someone. And then the person they reported to say something like, why didn't you tell someone? Or why are you coming forward with this right now? Are you sure it happened? The person you are accusing, they're such a nice person. Oh, what will the family think of you if you should come out and speak about it? And that's the guilt part of it. That's where the guilt comes in. And then the shame can follow the guilt right after or years after. Or you may have guilt and shame happening all at once, but they are different.
Thank you so much for that very thorough response. Something you said really stood out to me just now, and I never thought about it that way. And those of you who are watching, you can tell me what you think. You said, okay, guilt can manifest itself or can come as a result of persons asking a one simple question. Why didn't you say something? And maybe in their minds, they're being very supportive of you. That to me is, that's an epiphany. And I'm hoping that's what we call a talk truth treasure right there. For those persons who are watching, we may think, oh, it's okay. Somebody comes and we say, oh, so why you didn't tell anybody? Why you didn't trust me? Why you didn't? And then the person gets guilt from that. So from your experience, Vennassa, persons are really trying to be supportive. How then can they rephrase that question, or should they eliminate that question altogether? Because now we're
Mm-hmm.
learning something.
Right. And at the end of your statement, you just said eliminate it altogether. I think when someone comes to you and disclose that they have been assaulted or abused, it's not up to you to justify whether or not the person is telling the truth. It's for you to immediately provide a safe space for that person and actually being supportive and empathetic instead of trying to find a solution or trying to push the person to have a specific response. Most of the times when these things are disclosed, the immediate response to the person who is hearing this is like, well, we need to go to the police, we need to tell someone. And that's okay, that's a step that needs to be taken, but it may not be the first thing that you want to say. The first thing that you want to say is to ask the person, where are you right now? Like, okay, do you need some time to step away from what's happening? Do you feel safe? How can I be a more safe person for you? Is there anything that you need? So it's not about you, it's about the person coming to you. And it's not the time to ask them for details. Well, tell me what happened. You're
Yes.
you're not the person that's going to be investigating this.
Mhm.
You should be more concerned about the person's safety right now and the person's feelings right now. So save the 21 questions for a later time, but
Or
not
not at
initially.
all.
Exactly. And also save your own perception of what might have happened. If you do know the perpetrator, you don't need to say stuff like, well, I didn't see signs that he was this or she was that. That's not the time for it. The time now is for you to recognize that this person saw that you could have been a safe person. They came out to you. Now you need to be reflecting and processing with that person and making that person feel safe enough where they may feel motivated to later move past just disclosing that with you, but probably seek the necessary help they need.
Wonderful. I thank you so much for that. For those of you who are with us or you'll be joining us later on, if that makes sense to you, I want you to put a yes in the chat. Let's hear your comments. Do you think that there's some questions that are just off limit because it helps to breathe guilt and it helps to breathe shame? Let's hear your responses. Let's hear your opinion. Now, you have answered a question that I was about to ask. If the victim, survivor of childhood sexual abuse, didn't do anything wrong, why do they feel guilty? And you spoke about the question and the societal responses. So you got it, girl. You got it.
Yeah, that's something that oftentimes plays out whenever someone comes forward in saying that they were abused or they are still being abused, oftentimes, we say, you don't need to feel guilty because it wasn't your fault. The truth of the fact is that the survivor already knows that it wasn't their fault. So while that is a very insightful statement to say, sometimes it can also be a statement that causes someone to internalize what they're going through. So if someone comes to us and say, Pops, and I've been abused and I'm finding it so hard to not feel guilty for not saying something sooner. You saying, it wasn't your fault. That's good. But it may not have been the best time to say it, because what's actually happening is that you're pretty much saying to the person who is talking to you that you feeling guilty doesn't merit because you didn't do anything, right? So the guilt is actually real. And sometimes that guilt can be healthy for that person. And people would say, how can guilt be
Yeah.
healthy? Yeah, guilt can actually be healthy in the sense where if you feel guilty for something that you have done, or you feel guilty for something you haven't done, it can actually push you towards action. So if you're constantly
Oh,
feeling guilty, that can
talk.
actually push you to getting the help you need, because you shouldn't be feeling guilty. It wasn't your fault. You didn't cause it on yourself. So that guilt is actually healthy because it's pushing you to say, I need to talk to a professional. This isn't right. So
Wow.
that's what I mean when I say guilt can be healthy, and it can
Mhm.
be unhealthy when you internalize that guilt and it starts to eat away at you, and you find that you start to blame yourself. And then when that starts to happen, that's when we see the guilt kind of turning into shame. When you start to
Mm,
blame yourself and saying, well, if I was good enough for for this person to mistreat me this way, that means that I am not good enough to be anything outside of
mm.
someone that someone has abused. So it all intertwines, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. And what you said, the correlation that you're making, and the distinction between guilt and shame, it's
Hmm.
necessary for us to have that conversation. And you have dropped some talk truth treasures here. And just to corroborate what you're saying, I remember last year reading the book The Power of Vulnerability by Brené Brown, and what you are saying is exactly what she said. Guilt can be helpful, and persons may perceive that, okay, because this happened, because this did not happen, I feel guilty, and then you move them into action. I love that. I love that. That talk through treasure. Vennassa says guilt, or the perception of it, can actually propel you into action. Wow.
It
Somebody
can.
must be commenting somewhere in the chat, the
It
live, for that, because that was powerful.
it
the
can.
the next question is, how does the shame of even close family members, Kim says, certainly she's with you. How does the shame of even close family members, friends, and the society in general promote shame? We discussed how it promotes guilt, but how does that promote shame in the victim, in the survivor? What role do we play in that?
I think this shame is something that when people are abused, we know that there's going to be a point where they feel this huge sense of shame, but we can't really pinpoint when it will happen, or sometimes you can't really pinpoint how it looks.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that we are responsible for, those of us who aren't the victims in the scenario, what we are responsible for is being mindful of our words and our actions. I'll give an example.
Okay.
I've been in many spaces where I hear people say things such as, the length of a woman's dress was one of the motivating factors for her being sexually assaulted. Or um, when we think about children, well, from a very young age, she started to show, she started getting big breasts and big bottom. Those statements are very damaging because those statements blame the victim in saying that the victim is the one who caused it on themselves and the perpetrator has no responsibility in what happened. When we know the truth of the fact is that the perpetrator is the one who is responsible for whatever actions took place. So the shame that society can actually put on victims, survivors, and victors is that our mindset and our words that we say out damage people, and we don't know who is in our space, who have been abused. We don't know what their stories are. So hearing those statements definitely pushes people away, causes people to internalize a lot of the things that they've experienced. And internalized trauma is very damaging to people's self-esteem and self-worth. And if society is causing all these effects, we will never have safe spaces where people who are being abused will come out and talk. And they will constantly just go through this in silence. And that
Mm-hmm.
silence alone is painful.
Oh, and side, would you agree, Vanessa, that one of the promoters, one of the fertilizers that cause shame to just, I don't even want to say bloom, but just cause it to mushroom is silence.
Hmm. It is. It is. And that's silence too. I'm speaking from a Caribbean perspective where I've seen it happen a whole lot. Where when it comes on to childhood sexual abuse, many times there are family members in the family who are aware of what's happening. But to save face, they don't say anything. And the fact turns out to be that they are silent, and the person who is enduring that trauma knows they know, and they're saying, I'm going through this ordeal, and as the adult you're not saying anything. Why should I, a child, say something then? You get what I
Yeah,
mean? So that
yeah,
shame starts from pretty early on in this whole ordeal. It starts from the onset of it, right?
yeah.
It starts from the perpetrator, where the perpetrator already makes that person feel so shameful of what's happening. Then the person experiencing the trauma, they are shameful about it, and then they know that their families, their guardians, their relatives know about it, and no one is saying anything. That shame becomes embedded. And
Mhm.
when the person gets older, that shame is so hard to dissect. And it manifests itself in so many different ways.
Mhm.
Um, I've actually heard a keynote speaker, shared her story as to when she was sexually abused, and like 15 years later, she realized that she was just struggling with a lot of self-esteem issues, and she just people always used to say, but she's never talked about her abuse, but people always just say, you're so good at what you do, but yet so you have this low self-esteem. And she said that she was like, I don't know why I struggle with self esteem issues. And she went to therapy. And in therapy, the counselor said to her, have you ever experienced any adverse childhood experiences, sexual abuse, neglect, whatever? She said, yes, I was sexually abused up until age 11. And the therapist said, okay, how have you conceptualized that? And when she processed it all, she realized that how much that unprocessed traumatic event led to her having internalized that pain and that shame, and it just affected her self esteem. And no matter what she did, all her relationships, her professional life, it just kept being affected by her poor self esteem. And that was a result of that shame that she's been internalizing for so long.
Wow. I the connection I'm seeing, and we'll get to Kim's response in just a few. It's like the shame is compact because all right, the victim, the survivor is feeling the shame and it's real, but then the family also feels ashamed because of all the scandal and cockroaches and bangarang in Jamaican term that is going to break on the family because of what has happened. Friends now feel ashamed, and the church doesn't want to talk about it because sexual sin is the worst sin in the entire world. And then society is saying it's your fault, and it just keeps compounding. And I'm seeing the victim at the bottom of the pile,
Mm-hmm.
the one who's really experiencing all of this, just being crushed, not just by his or her shame, but by everybody else's shame. And I'm thinking that everybody wants the survivor, the victim, to deal with his or her issue and then to deal with everybody else's issue.
But and you
That's
think of that, like, how how am I going to be able to take care of your issue and take care of the issues that I'm going through? So
mhm,
when it comes on to being a victim of child sexual abuse, one of the things in the adverse childhood experience study, the ACE study, it says that it after a traumatic event, if there
mhm.
is actually one stable person or one safe person in that child's life, the outcome is at least 60% uh, times more than if they had not even one person who would believe them or who would be there for them. So all it takes is one person. It just
Wow.
takes that one person who will say, I am here for you, and consistently is there for that person, right? May it be providing a safe space for them to live, providing them food, clothing, and shelter, being emotionally supportive, or actually working with that person in taking them to their therapy sessions, making sure that they have transportation. If there is at least one person that is
Mhm.
positive and stable after a child has been abused, the child's outcome into adult years is it has a 60% chance of being healthier than if they didn't have that one adult.
Wow. Wow. Um, uh, Viewers, you're watching, and I know that you're listening to what Vanessa is saying. I hope that we're understanding that every single one of us has a role to play. If you are better understanding your role as a community of women, I want you to type me in the chat. I want you to type me in the comment section as you're watching afterwards, because survivors cannot do it by themselves. One of the things that really shattered my heart, Vanessa, a few months ago while I was preparing a talk truth and launching an online course, I would send out messages to persons, and I think I got about 3 to 5 responses of persons who say, you know what, I'm not interested. I was in sexual abuse. Why are you sharing this with me? And it broke my heart. It broke my heart because it shouted at me the ignorance that's out there. Because persons may say, oh, I have never been sexually abused, then why am I hearing about this? But there are persons all around us, persons within your own family who never said a word, and you don't know. Your church sister, your friend, even a best friend, you should just know. There was a keynote speaker who was highly celebrated for her skills, and she was struggling. And until we take away that individualistic mindset that says, oh, if I've never experienced it, then I have no parts to play, we are mashing down that lie. We're
Mm-hmm.
destroying that lie. Vanessa is saying, give the person food, somewhere to stay, take him or her to a therapist session, just provide a listening ear. So we all have a part to play. Type me in the comment. Can we bring back Kim's response on screen as we wrap up with two last questions? Kim says, the culture of shame is so real. When an officer of the law can say to a victim, what were you wearing that could have caused this? They are perpetuating the culture of shame. Words are important.
Important.
The question, Vanessa has also said to us, the questions we ask are important. I think, very frankly, I'm going to talk the truth. Sometimes we need to keep our mouth shut. If somebody comes to us and they're pouring, as you said, we are not investigators, we are not interviewers. And when the person feels as if they want to stop sharing, don't press it. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you see, I'm getting heated on this
Yes.
episode. Question: how can shame manifest itself in someone's life? A lady who is watching, she said, I don't know if it's shame. I don't know what it is. Give her some pointers. How can she
Mm-hmm.
identify?
Um, a few shame can manifest itself in a few ways.
Mhm.
I'm gonna more so look at the psychological ways that it can manifest itself. It starts with our self-talk, and that's just the words and the phrases that we say onto ourselves, and the mindset we have towards ourselves, what we believe about ourselves. And when we know that there is a wealth of shame, when we start to use statements such as "I am unworthy" or "I am not lovable," "I am damaged," "I am done," "I am broken,"
Yeah.
those are signs, those are telling signs that there is some amount of shame that is at the surface or at the core of or self-esteem and or self-worth and self-thought. And we want to address that in ways where people don't feel like they're being attacked, to say, well, you are pretty much saying the thing I'm saying, that I'm not a good person to be thinking about these things towards myself. No, that's not at all what we're saying. Whether or not you've been sexually abused as a child or not, we have all had experiences where we have internalized shame or feel shameful in an unhealthy way, and that's okay. What I'm talking about is where we see it causing an hindrance in our everyday life. When you find yourself feeling, when you find that shame kind of interrupting your daily functioning, let's say, for example, when it comes on to low self esteem that stems from shame, you find yourself not feeling like you're good enough to try or apply for a new job. Why?
Mm.
Because I'm just not a good person, or I don't have the skills. Well, you are perfectly qualified for that position, but that shame that you've internalized for so long is now second nature, and you start to believe these things about yourself. And that's one manifestation in which we see the whole script of shame and how it comes out in our daily lives after
I'm
going through
sorry.
such a traumatic event.
Can I just interject here? I think
Mm-hmm.
what you said a while ago was powerful, because I think many times when persons consider shame in the context of childhood sexual abuse, persons get this image of a woman crying in her private space, just saying, woe is me. But from you, I'm getting, ladies, we have to face the shame, because it extends its tentacles in other areas of our lives. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
limited to how we feel about what we have experienced, but it causes us not to enjoy good relationships because we think we're not worthy of love. As you said, it causes us not to apply for a position, though you're really qualified for it. So we have to really face it, and we have to just put out, stem it out. I'm trying to find
Mm-hmm.
it, but it didn't come, so I hope that makes sense. Oh, yeah, so, a certain gentleman has put a comment on YouTube. I don't know if you know him. His name
I
is
think I do.
Carl Cunningham. He says, thanks for creating this space, Popsan. Cunningham, does that name sound familiar?
Very, very familiar.
Thank you, Carl, for that. And thank you for your wife being a part of Talk Truth. it's manifesting itself. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about how it manifests itself before we speak to the ladies and give them a word of hope?
It can also show signs physiologically. You may sometimes find that because of the mental manifestation, it leads into lack of sleep or feeling so anxious, and that anxiety manifests itself in muscle tension or pain, headaches. And if I've had the experience of working with people who couldn't find a physiological explanation as to why they're having headaches or tension or pain. And when all was processed, it went back to childhood sexual abuse. And some of the things that they were able to uncover or process was guilt and shame. And after processing and going through various therapeutic interventions, months later, some of these people are able to report, I have seen reduction in my headaches. I have seen reduction in muscle tension and pain, and I'm seeing an increase in getting restful sleep. So it can also manifest itself in physiological ways. So we want to pay attention to our bodies. And I know this is mostly for people who have endured childhood sexual abuse, but this is also for other areas of our lives. Overall, we need to just pay attention to our mental health and to our bodies, and to be mindful that various mental issues or challenges can definitely manifest itself in physiological ways.
Oh, Vennassa, I am so passionate about this topic. I
I can
am,
see that.
yes, I'm so passionate because there are so many women who are struggling, and shame is like the shackle around our feet.
Mm.
WHT family, you cannot keep this to yourself. You cannot. You cannot. We cannot perpetuate the culture of shame. And so, two simple things you can do. Two simple things. Share. It takes nothing to share. Someone needs to hear this. If you don't need to hear it, someone needs to hear it. Oh, Lord have mercy. The last question for this evening, Vanessa. A woman who is listening, a sister, even a brother, how can they overcome the shame? Practical tips. Practical tips. Send out the anchor.
Or
Someone is joining.
if I so I really am passionate, just as you are, Popsan. I had put together something that I wanted to share with you all. Just 5 simple ways in which that we can work through this guilt and this shame, right?
Yeah.
Number one is that seek out relationships where you can commit to being vulnerable and you feel safe with these people. So you're seeking out safe spaces and safe people. Do everything in your power to find a community. Communities are important, and it starts with us, and it starts with me saying, hey, Popsan, can we be a safe community for women who have been sexually abused? And then Popsan grabbed Kim, and Kim grabbed somebody else, and that's a community. And then someone who has endured childhood sexual abuse can say, you know what? Kim, Popsan, Vennassa, there are safe people. That's my community. And we see where that shame starts to disappear when we see people start to sharing in safe spaces. So that's number one, seeking out relationships and committing to vulnerability with safe people. I'll say number two is move out of our heads, moving out of our heads into the open. Let's not try to keep everything inside. Or bodies or organs, they're small spaces. But if we start to externalize some of these things outside of our heads, we will see where we're putting the shame outside into the world and we're no longer holding it inside of us. So, how can you do that? You can literally move outside of your head by writing it down, writing it in a journal, keeping it in a very safe space, creating some form of artwork or dance or movements. You will see where these creative pieces now represents your shame, and the shame finds healing when it's taken outside. So when you're outside of your head, that's when the shame will start. You will see healing starting to happen.
Mhm.
And three, I want to say three would be to develop self compassion. Self
Mhm.
compassion is so important. It's so easy for us to be compassionate to other people, but it's twice as hard to be compassionate towards ourselves. So we want to develop some self compassion for ourselves, develop some grace, extend yourself grace. You are deserving of everything that is good. Every good gifts, you are deserving of that. So consider what you would do for a friend, the good gifts you would give for a friend. Give those same good, kind gifts to yourself. And you will see where being so self compassionate and so gracious to yourself, you will see a reduction in the amount of negative self talk that you internalize.
Wonderful.
Four, I would say four is to take small risk. What are small risk? Small people who struggle with guilt and shame, they oftentimes finds it very difficult to take risk, and we cannot blame them. Their trust has been broken. They have
Yeah.
been violated. So taking risk right now is not something that's going to come as natural as somebody else. For somebody else. So you want to take small risk by attempting to try something new. And what you're actually doing is that you're attempting to try something with the possibility that it may end up in failure. And this
Mhm.
failure should not be internalized. This failure, while it will be difficult, it actually is to remind you that failure is a natural part of life. And sometimes things fail not because you didn't do something right, but because that was just the outcome. But trying it from a different perspective may give you a different outcome. So take small risk, and take it. Take baby steps and take what feels comfortable to you. Don't overwhelm yourself. Do it at your pace. And the fifth and final thing that I would say that is a way out of guilt and shame is to believe that healing is possible, and
Yes.
believe that making one good decision in the right direction can actually propel or push start your healing journey. So believe that you are worthy of being healed, and believe that you are worthy of being loved by other people. Believe that you're worthy of getting good gifts. And when we start with those mindsets, believing, that alone will show a complete, drastic downward slide of that shame and guilt that we've been living with for so long. So those are the five things that I would share as way out of guilt and shame.
Wonderful. No, I'm a teacher, so I was jotting things. Just for
Nice.
yes, get your pens and paper. Talk truth, family, and let's go. Just to reiterate what Vanessa said, just in case you missed it, all right? And our studio engineer is like, talk truth, treasure, talk truth, treasure. Number one, seek a safe space, a community. Move out of your head. Number two. Number three, be compassionate to self. Number four, take small risks, manageable risks. And number five, believe that healing is possible. Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And
You're
you,
welcome.
it was a pleasure. The passion is there, the authenticity. I tell the ladies all the time, we have everything you need here at Women Healing Together. We are a group of women who are on our road of healing, and we have so many qualified and passionate women who have helped us, and we want to thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I believe and I believe that these spaces are important. We've been through a horrible 2020.
Mhm.
2021 is definitely the year of intentionality when it comes down to creating safe spaces. So
Wonderful.
thanks for inviting me to join the show.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. And as we close off tonight, Vanessa, please don't leave us. I have three things that I want to mention as we go. The first is this: Vanessa spoke about moving out of your head, and she cited an example through journaling. And I want to just direct your attention over to Instagram. Yes, I want to direct your attention over to Instagram. I want you to write this down. Write this down. It is Coco underscore Kale. That's what you're going to be searching for. That's what you're going to be sharing. It's KOKO underscore KALE. Perfect. That's what you're going to be searching for on Instagram. This is a friend of mine. She has been on Talk Truth, and she has a very powerful initiative for 2021. She's being intentional. And that's what Vanessa spoke about just now. She has an initiative where she is taking women, everybody, on a journey of journaling. So every single day, she gives a prompt that's intentional, and she shows you how to really be creative with your journaling. This will be very helpful to a lot of women. So again, go to IG, search for Coco underscore Kale, and start your journaling. Contact her, DM her. She is ready, willing, and waiting to take you on your journaling journey. The next thing that I want to bring to your attention, listen, 2021 is a new year, it's a new you. If healing is desired, if growth is desired, Vanessa has told us we have to take risk, small risk. And these that we're sharing, not risk at all. They will give you what you need to just jolt yourself into the healing process. So that's number one. Number two, go to Amazon. Go to Amazon, right? You're going to search for Nick Snack for Living, motivation all around. And every single day, whether it be in the morning, in the evening, whenever, you're going to go in and you're going to take about 5 minutes to read an entry. 5 minutes to read an entry. You'll have a scripture passage, you will have an actual reading entry, all right? You'll have a scripture passage, you'll have a reading entry, you will have a self-reflection poem. Don't know if you can see that, a self-reflection poem, and you'll also have a space to do your effective questions. So you're going again to Amazon.com and you're searching for Nick Snack for Living. It's a purchase that you will not regret, right? And then the final thing I'd like to leave with you is Vennassa's, and we can bring Vennassa back on screen. I'm sharing her initiatives with you. She is a licensed counselor. She is a psychotherapist whose area of specialization is trauma and mental health. You want to get in touch with her. You need to get in touch with her. It's intentionality. So you're going to IG again. So you're going to IG, you're looking for two people. You're looking for Coco underscore Kale for the journaling. And you're also looking for simplythriving.ca. Right, Vanessa? Right?
You got
You're
it.
going, that's what you're looking for. Intentional. Send her a DM, reach out to her. She is amazing and she will help you on your road of healing. I also want you to visit her website. Look here, I'm serious, Look here, let me put my teacher mode on. Get the pen and the paper, write it down, type it somewhere, right? Simplythriving.ca. Don't pay any mind, Vennassa, I'm crazy. On IG. And you're also going to her website at about.me/Vennassa. Her name is on screen, so you can't misspell it, right? So it's about.me/Vennassa. Reach out to Coco Kale. Buy the book, More Women Healing Together, Nick Snacks for Living, and contact Vennassa on her website or on IG. Ladies, let's do it. Nobody can do it for us. We bless God. We give him thanks. Have a wonderful evening. And as I always say, we heal so much better when we heal together. See you the third week in January 2021.